Hey friends, welcome back for the second part of working on our rainbow fish project. For this part, you're going to need your drawn fish, a coffee filter, some markers, a paintbrush, and a cup of water, or some kind of container to hold the water. So what we're going to do first is we're going to color this entire coffee filter with all of these bright colors. And then I'm going to show you a really cool way that we're going to tear this up and transfer this color to your rainbow fish. So the first thing we need to do is smooth out our coffee filter. And then we're going to take our markers and we're going to just start coloring this filter. Now, you do not have to color nice and neat. I know usually I tell you that I want you to color thick and juicy and nice and neat. But for this part, all you're really doing is just getting color onto your coffee filter. And a really easy way to do that, if you'll notice, my marker has a sharp point and then it's got this long edge. What you can do is take your marker and kind of turn it on that edge, and it's going to color much thicker and much faster. Make sure when you're done with your marker, you snap the cap back on. I always want to hear that noise when we're working with markers, don't we? We don't want them to dry out. So I'm just moving my coffee filter around, coloring the whole thing. And you want to make sure you're using just regular markers and not permanent markers. Because if you use permanent markers, this part won't work. Snap the cap. There we go. Gonna add some green. And maybe I'll add some of this pretty turquoise color. I'm not really overlapping any of my marker colors. I'm kind of just trying to color any blank spaces on my little piece of coffee filter, okay? But it does not have to be perfectly colored. You can see I still have a lot of streaky white areas. That's no problem. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to tear this coffee filter into little pieces, okay? So go ahead and get your fish back. Here's your fish drawing, and I'm gonna tear off just a little piece of this coffee filter, okay? I can make it even smaller if I want. And I'm going to start laying those pieces of coffee filter on my fish, especially in this area right here, okay? Remember, that's our rainbow fish's special scales. Now, this part is super fun and super magical, okay? So I'm going to take my wet paintbrush. I'm gonna probably wipe just a little bit of water off. I don't need it to be super, super wet. Hold the coffee filter in place with one hand, and with my other hand, I'm going to start painting on top of that coffee filter with my water. And what's going to happen is the water is going to wake up the ink inside of that coffee filter, and that ink is going to bleed onto the paper. So we're gonna leave it sitting there. Don't peek yet. Let it stay sitting there. I'm gonna come do this one next. You want to make sure you get your coffee filter nice and wet for this part, but not soaking wet. I probably used a little bit too much water right there, but that's okay. I'll come back to my coffee filter, tear off another small piece. I'm going to put this piece right here. And you can see how the ink is already kind of starting to come off of the coffee filter, which is really, really cool. But I'm not going to peek yet. If you want to overlap a little bit, that's fine. I got a little bit off my fish right there, so I'm going to fold it back in. There we go. There we go. Tear off some more pieces. It's kind of like putting together a puzzle. There we go. We want lots and lots of colors for our rainbow fish for those beautiful bright colored scales. Okay, so now I have all the scales covered on my rainbow fish. So now I can use the rest of my coffee filter and this part to cover the face and the fins. Now, as you can see, I did not have enough colored tissue to completely cover this top fin or my fish's tail. That's no problem at all. When I come back and color all of this background with crayon, I can just color these areas with crayon as well, okay? No problem at all. But I did want to make sure to not overlap too many of my pieces of tissue so that I would have room to spread them out as much as I could. I left my fish's lips white because I think I want to color them a certain color with a crayon, and I tried to leave as much of the eye white as I could. But like I said, if you don't cover your entire fish, as long as you get this section right here, that's the most important part because that's your fish's scales covered with your coffee filter pieces, then the rest should be fine. Make sure each piece has a little bit of water on it because that's the glue that's going to hold it in place. Once you're done with this, you're going to put this back in your folder and we're going to let it dry. And next week, once we pull this back out of our folder, you'll be able to peel the coffee filter off and you'll see that it will have made this beautiful color and texture all over your fish's body. Okay? So I'll see you for the next set of the project, next class period. Thanks so much. Bye.